How's my hair look? Like Einstein? All right, we're going to get into some highfalutin Ivy Tower kind of stuff here. All right. That probably has no bearing on the casting that I just did, but it's a great opportunity to talk about it. And so I'm going to do it. Now, a few weeks ago, no, probably a few months ago, Bob over at Making Stuff contacted me and asked me if I'd be willing to cast a couple of wheels for him. And I would show you the wheels, except I already said it to Bob, so I wasn't thinking. I don't know, what a shock, right? Anyway, this is the wheel. This is the pattern for the wheel. It's about 6 inches in diameter, and it's about 1 inch thick. It's actually like 7/8 thick or something like that. Bob had some pretty particular design constraints as far as size, thickness, design. We went a couple of iterations on design and settled on this one with sort of a recessed center in it. That still is over 1/2 inch thick, so it's pretty strong. I wanted to take some of the metal out of the casting. Yeah, so there's his pattern. You'll see it cast. I actually I'll show you both castings here. But anyway, I want to show you some stuff first. As I thought about how I was going to cast this thing, I've got some stuff. I'm going to take you to the bench. I'm going to show you some stuff on paper, and we'll just talk a little bit about, did I do this thing wrong? I don't think I did. I think I'm okay, but you know, you could argue I did it wrong. So let's go to the bench, and I'll come back and we'll wrap this thing up. I thought about doing all sorts of fancy computer graphic animation stuff. That just ain't me. So as I mentioned, I had two choices, right? I could cast this thing. If you look at it from a top view, I could bring in a gate, and essentially that's a circle, and I could cast it this way, right? Top view. And from the side, what that looks like is essentially something like this. It's the same. Those are the same if you didn't notice. And parting line down the middle. So half the wheel in the bottom, half the wheel on the top, or half the wheel on the drag, half the wheel on the cope. And then I can gate in, and I can gate in here, or I could gate in here, and I can't even remember which way I gated in. So we'll draw it that I gated in the drag. And then I have a runner that runs this direction here, right? So basically what we're going to see here is a runner coming this way, and my little spin trap, and the sprue's coming up. Sprue comes up here. Now, what happens when we fill this part is the metal's going to come in here, and you can almost see it. I wish I hadn't shipped the parts back, because you could see it maybe in the picture. I'll show you. But you can see the metal's going to come in here, and it's going to start just kind of filling this thing up, right, in different directions. And when we're doing that, what we're ending up with is we're having leading edges of the things of oxidation, aluminum oxidation. Professor Campbell, he'll call it bifilm, right? Or others probably call it bifilms as well. But that is the idea that I have an oxidation layer that is coming together, and I've got two pieces of oxidation that are forming themselves together. That's not the strongest joint in the world. The other thing that's happening with this pour is this metal, and even though this was a fairly small drop, this metal is going to come in here and drop down like this, which is going to cause some, I'll leave it at some amount of turbulence. It may be very little, it may be huge, but we're going to have some turbulence in here. All that turbulence comes in the forms of bubbles, comes in the form of more bifilms. And then we're going to eventually start to fill, right? And it's going to fill across here, and then we'll finally start to fill this direction here and fill up the mold. And then you may notice on there that I had a feeder sitting right here, just to make sure that I didn't get any shrinkage in that hub where the center of the wheel is. Now, if I had poured it the other way, right? If I had poured it Golly, if I can figure out how to show this. So let's just say we're now, instead of looking at it from the top, we're going to be looking at it from the side here. Okay? So the metal, so this is top, this is bottom, and I'm going to gate in from the side. Again, keep in mind here, top, bottom, gating in from the side, so the metal's coming in this way. We can do it that way with the same kind of deal, right? Runner coming across, sprue coming up, so forth. From the side view, what that's going to look like is something essentially like this. You're going to see a tall rectangle, right? Same height as this guy, and a gate coming in from the side. I probably shouldn't have up the other way, but you got this gate coming in from the side. Now what's going to happen when the metal comes in here, first of all, it's flat, so we don't have this turbulence going on. Second is it's going to start to fill this direction. And when we start to fill this way, what happens is that forms a layer here where the metal is it's oxidizing, it's cooling, but there's more metal coming behind it. So that that layer breaks open, and it'll start to break open as more metal comes in here, and eventually that oxide layer will break open and it'll get laid out against the sides of the mold, which actually gives us a really good surface when that happens. And what we end up with is a centerpiece that has very little biofilm in it, because all that biofilm, every time it comes up, it opens and it spreads out, opens and spreads out, and pushes itself against the side until we get all the way full. So what we've got along the edge is an oxidation layer of biofilm, and we've got a very clean pour in the center. So probably the way I should have done this, but Fresh Campbell, if you're watching, Bob, if you're watching,
cover your ears, darling.
Sometimes, you know, you just got to get the job done, and you got to deal with what you've got. And I didn't have a flask set up for doing this. I did have a flask set up for doing this, so we ended up going this way. Okay, let's go ahead and get this thing rammed up now, mold made. I'm going to start off with the pattern and the runner down in the drag. This is the bottom half of the pattern. A little diamond parting compound. I'm going to riddle on some fine facing sand. And then just fill the rest of the mold with bulk sand that hasn't been screened out like that. Sand has been mulled though. And we're gonna ram it just like we always do. Start with the peen end or the pointy end of the ramming tool, and then we finish it off with the blunt end. Once it's all rammed, we can go ahead and strike the mold. That's strike tool is what that's called. We're just basically scraping the excess sand off the top. And we have a nice clean surface to work with now. And hopefully this part won't fall out of here when I lift this up. And it didn't, it stayed in. As you can see on the top here, there is a square right in the middle of that pattern. I planned on using a key to hold these things in alignment, but then I realized, you know what, I want to put a feeder on there, and I just went ahead and drilled it out so I could put that dowel through there. And that dowel will hold these things in perfect alignment for me. And you'll see me put the feeder on here in just a sec. This is a gate that I printed to fit the side of this pattern. Sits right on top of the runner and is perpendicular to it. And there's the feeder. I can't get the stupid thing on there. I will take it out of there and put it on that way. So now I've got a feeder. I didn't want that section of the mold to shrink. I wanted to make sure it was nice and tall. So that when he drills it and puts his bearing in there, it would be a really easy thing for him to do. Again, more parting compound, riddling more sand on the surface, more bulk sand. Ram it like we did before. Peen in first, blunt in second. I'll go ahead and get this thing struck off again like we did before. Have a nice clean surface. Go ahead and pull the two vents. Get out of there. Oh man, it was tight. Now we're going to cut our offset pouring basin like we always do. Notice it's really close to the edge of the mold, and it's also about ½ an inch, 12 millimeters or so from the sprue itself. We just clean it up here with a nice soft brush to make sure everything's smooth and clean. I'm going to go ahead and vent this part through the cope using this wire and just poking some small vents in here. Those will not show up on the pattern at all. So we get our pattern out of here. This is a wrapping tool that I made in a video, and it's actually for sale up on my website. Great for just loosening up the pattern gently. Not a lot of energy gets transferred into the part, and so it doesn't distort it. Easy to use, easy to hold. And the part you'll see here in a second comes out of here nice and clean. There it is. Check it out. All right, we got everything taken out and cleaned up. So we're going to go ahead and close this thing up and get ready for a pour. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video right here. I want you to just notice how full that crucible is. I don't normally pour my crucible this full. And then we're going to stop it again right here. I want to put a timer on because I want to show you how long this pour actually takes. Actually, by my standards, this is a really long pour. There you go, 12.9 seconds, almost 13 seconds to pour. I was watching for it to come up through those two vents. That's when I stopped. I knew I was full. So we get this thing opened up and take a look. Always a good sign when the bottom is full. And let's see what the top looks like. Come on. There you go. Looks good. Looks really good. Pretty happy with it. Here's the second one. This one takes even longer. Look at how sloppy this pour is, though. And that was everywhere. You can also see the turbulence under the surface of this metal. I don't know what to say about that. It's just, it took forever to pour, and it seemed like a very turbulent pour to me. Fortunately, I wasn't sucking any metal. There you see it was almost a second and a half longer. Actually, just a little more than a second and a half longer to pour that one. And here's the other one. Good clean there on the bottom. And the top, again, looks really nice. All right, well, there's everything, right? There was the talk on the bench, there was the castings, everything. Bob has had the parts machined, had a bearing pressed in. He sent me this picture right here. So, and he's happy with what I sent him. Score. It's always nice to have somebody happy with what you did. And, you know, I'm pretty happy with it too. So, here we go. I want you guys to go check out Bob's video. I'll link it right there. Be a blessing to somebody. Do something nice for somebody. Say something nice to somebody. Just don't be a butthead. I had that happen to me this week. Don't be a butthead. That's a blessing in itself. Anyway, and you guys have a great, great day.